I think one of the key things is, allowing the individual space to have their own opinions. A lot of times in our education or setting, we're just being told to do something without giving that space to, letting that person explore it through their own mindset.
This is Gautam, and I welcome you to episode 23 of the Learn and Unlearn podcast. In today's episode, I bring you my conversation with Princy Goyal. Princy is a 23-year-old founder and CEO of Kontor Space, an Indian company operating in the space as a service industry, focused on developing modern office spaces that cater to the recent shift in the Indian work culture and workforce demographics. She was conferred the Youngest Women Entrepreneur Award by Union Minister Shri Nitin Gadkari in 2018. Let's get started. Welcome, Princy. It's
Thank you.
great to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
To get started, please tell us about the vision and the journey behind Contour Space.
So Kontor Space is a co-working company, and we started back in 2018, where though the shared economy had already begun in this particular industry, the workspace or the commercial real estate, co-working was still a nascent concept in India. So the vision behind, or the company was to create a co-working ecosystem, and because we noticed a shift in the workforce. As you would be aware, right now we have the most diverse workforce in terms of the number of generations involved. We have baby boomers, millennials, and also Gen Z now who have entered the workforce. And the current workspace, or the setting was very focused on the style of baby boomers and maybe a little bit of early millennials, but as the new generations, the post millennials, Gen Z, started entering the workforce, that didn't really work for them. They had different sets of values in terms of, say, even if it's something like inclusivity or having a fun experience at work, not just a 9 to 5. They want to, they not just running behind checks. They also want to have a good work-life balance, and different sets of values as the generations change. So we noticed that, hey, this is not going to work out, and co-working is a great concept which offers something for everybody. And personally, I wanted to get into this because it was a great application of my varied skill set, because it has so much to offer as an industry. It's not just about real estate, it's also a lot about the service, so, the community building. So it has multiple facets to it, and it was something that I could apply my personal skill sets to.
Wonderful. And you have accomplished all this at such a young age, and you are indeed an inspiration to all the youngsters. So I would love to learn from you, as a parent or a teacher, how do I provide an environment that enables my child to develop an entrepreneurial mindset?
I think one of the key things is, allowing the individual space to have their own opinions. A lot of times in our education or setting, we're just being told to do something without giving that space to, letting that person explore it through their own mindset. So this might not be a very relevant analogy, but if you look at classical dancing, right? In that, the dancers are taught to tell a story through their, expressions, etc. But they are also taught to leave some space for the audience to have their own journey through that story. So similarly, giving that setting, telling them, okay, hey, you know what, this is what is usually done, or this is the reason why we're doing it, and now it's your choice to explore it, or have the choice to question, or not just give them a set thing that this is what needs to be done, or this is what it's in, this is how it's done. Like giving them the space to explore and question and apply their mind.
Exactly. In fact, that's an area which I am also working on as well.
Sure.
where teachers or facilitators tell the what and the why, and
Yeah.
the how is actually decided by the students.
Right, right. So that gives them the choice to, apply their mind, come up with new ideas. That environment where you're allowed to deliberate or, have something to say of your own, even if it's, how we have brainstorming sessions in, the corporates. No idea is bad or good. Like you throw everything on the table, you explore ideas, and that's when new things come up.
Exactly. And what are the advantages that you see when we encourage our children to develop an entrepreneurial mindset?
Definitely one of the advantages is higher scale of innovation. Secondly, I think one would be that as an individual, right now, mental health is a huge, huge topic of conversation. So when you're given that space to kind of explore or do something that you're passionate about, and not just be the part of the corporate race, or just for anything, not just this area of life, in any area of life, you're much more satisfied as an individual. This is slightly at a more higher level of things, but otherwise, even in the way you navigate your life, it changes, right? You are able to kind of question things, find your own path. So having that entrepreneurial mindset as a base of being able to have your space to question things or apply your own idea helps you navigate life better, is what I would personally say.
Hmm. And what has been your learning in your personal journey of being an entrepreneur?
So definitely, when I compare myself with my peers who have not had the opportunity to be an entrepreneur or, have the journey that I've had, I can notice a stark difference in the way that, they look at things or the perspective they would have towards a lot of things in life. So I feel that, because I've had the opportunity to manage a team, work with people, do even stuff like sales or service, manage real estate, do my own taxes, just for example. So, the kind of experience or the position that I'm at 23, if I compare it to my peers who are just still, educating themselves through colleges, etc., is very different. I would, the way I would look at things would be very different compared to the way they would look at things.
Yes, so this has provided you accelerated learning,
Right,
and
right. A
not like a
different
linear model.
relation, yes.
Wonderful. And there are also a few limiting beliefs that I would say. When we think about entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
it is challenging, or you need funding, or you need a backing of like your family. So, what do you have to say about such limiting beliefs?
So I wouldn't romanticize the idea of entrepreneurship and say that it's easy. It's definitely challenging because one of the key jobs of an entrepreneur is firefighting or problem solving on a daily basis. And you're responsible for an entire team. So it's definitely challenging, but I would say it's worth the risk if you have if you have the appetite of taking that risk. At the end of the day, it's worth it. So I wouldn't say it's not challenging. It's definitely a lot of work, and especially when you're at a younger age, you have to teach yourself a lot of things. In terms of getting to a certain level. And when it comes to funding, nowadays there are like many routes. Even if you just have an idea, you have a lot of incubation acceleration programs who kind of teach you or bootstrap you to a certain level, mentor you, and then you can take it from there. I think there are a lot of misconception that, hey, if I go ahead and sell my idea to someone, they'll steal it, or they'll I can't share it with anyone. I need to kind of find funding within my family. That is not really the case when you go out there. A lot of people are willing to mentor, but you need to be able to access those networks, which is the challenge, tapping the right people, connecting with the right people to give you that push. And if you have friends and families who are willing to invest, that is always it gives you a buffer to kind of explore before going out in the market and approaching other individuals or onboarding different mentors. It kind of gives you time to set your base, but that is not a prerequisite to start a business or a startup. Even if you have an idea, and nowadays with the internet you have the opportunity to experiment, in the sense that if I have an idea, I can choose a target audience and throw some teasers, or put stuff out there and get feedback and grow. So big money is not always needed, except if you're doing something like machine learning and you need that kind of equipment. That's a different point, but otherwise that is not the only way. Even if you have an idea, it's possible to take it forward without having personal finance to fund the initial level.
Exactly. You can always try out a POC and see how it goes.
Right, right.
Yes. Another question I had was how important is the emotional support from your family, from your parents or teachers when you started out at such a young age?
It is definitely very important because there are also a lot of cultural norms in India which set certain timelines for you, that hey, by this age you should be finishing this, or if you're approaching a certain age, you should have finished your post grad by then, and this they look at this more as an experiment, or something that will die out. So having that emotional support and that environment in your family, that hey, what, go out, now is your time to take risk and explore life, is very important. Otherwise, like I said initially, a lot of entrepreneurship is firefighting, problem solving, and getting things done. So if you don't have that support back home, it becomes even more of a challenge, and it might eventually let an entrepreneur to break down and not have the capacity to move forward. So it is a very crucial to have supportive friends, family, or teachers who would also mentor you and teach you from their experiences, so you can make your own mistakes and not repeat the same mistakes. So having that kind of support and mentorship is very important.
Wonderful. These are amazing insights.
Thank you.
So, coming, or let's take this from a student's perspective.
Sure.
Um, as a student, how do I develop an entrepreneurial mindset? What do I need to do? What habits do I need to follow?
Mhm. So unfortunately, within our educational structure, we don't have those, skill developing subjects, or that. So I read somewhere before this, before I hopped onto this podcast, that entrepreneurship is something that comes with practice. It's not always that you have to have that inner acumen, for it can be taught through practice. So, but unfortunately, that is something that's not there in our current education system. However, as a student, if this is if you have the mindset to do something of your own, or I think reading, and now with e-learning, you can teach yourself so many skills that you don't even have to pay for it. Like, there are amazing courses available online to kind of develop that skill set. Reading is also very important, because when you read about how the other entrepreneurs did it, or how to build a team, or the multiple books, like how to how to build a company, how to take that first step. So there are a lot of ways that you can teach yourself those skills outside of school, especially because of e-education. Now it's even more simpler. If reading is not your cup of tea, you can watch a video which will teach you way in a much more consumable format, but a lot of similar things. So I think that, so just kind of exploring and keeping yourself open to learning from the internet, reading or listening to podcasts like these, is a great way to develop that mindset. And I think now with the change in education system, stuff like coding and all of that is going to come to the syllabus, but teaching yourself these basics of internet, or how you gonna how you can approach a new age skills which might not be a part of your syllabus yet. You can kind of go out and teach and explore, have conversations. Second, that is also very important, like have conversations with a range of people, like move out of your bubble, speak to people and get learn from their experiences. You get a lot of different perspective on things. So I think that these are a few things as a student that could help you, move towards the entrepreneurship journey.
Amazing. Do you suggest following any entrepreneurs, or do you follow any entrepreneurs on YouTube? Because I know that some of them have amazing YouTube channels and they post a lot of great content. So, do you suggest anything?
On YouTube, again, there is a lot of content, but it can also be overwhelming because there are a lot of people who are like very young and giving you advice without any experience. So you have to be wary of who you are following and kind of see where they're coming from before just hopping on, because there's so much content now. Like for example, the latest example is trading, right? People who have no experience in trading are suggesting you which stocks to invest in because it's become so much more easier to have your own account and start trading. And a lot of times they have no analysis behind suggesting it. It's just hype that everybody is creating. So while there are multiple entrepreneurs to follow online, I think you just have to do a little bit of research before you choose who you want to follow. And because there are entrepreneurs in different industries that you might be interested in, so just kind of choose one that you think is doing really well or is really innovating or has done very well for themselves. Do a little bit of research, and then you can follow and e-learn.
Mhm. Do you personally follow anyone?
So not in terms of a YouTube channel, but I think there are a couple of great entrepreneurs out there. A mainstream one would be Elon Musk. Though he has his own wacky ways of doing things, if you look at the innovation level, all the companies
Yes.
that I personally think that he is heading or a part of are innovating and not just creating a better mousetrap. So, even if it's something like a Neuralink or, SpaceX or Boring Company, they're doing a lot of new and innovative things to, take that step forward. And also Jeff Bezos is very, like on the different spectrum than Elon Musk, but he also has his very interesting ways of handling things. So, for example, I recently learned that he only takes specific kinds of meetings, and where he doesn't need to. So basically what they do is they want to maintain the bank of their brain cells and not spend it on repetitive meetings or things where you're not really solving a problem. It's just a meeting which is repetitive, or just discussing the same things again and again. So I think these two have really made their mark on the world and are doing really interesting things. So these two entrepreneurs are somebody I really like. But there are many that I learn different things from. But in terms of YouTube, there's not one in particular that I follow. In fact, instead, I see a lot of snippets on Instagram, which are more consumable for me rather than watching a more longer
Right.
video sometimes. So I kind of do that instead a lot of times.
Hmm. Yes. About Jeff Bezos, I've read that he takes a maximum of three decisions in a day.
Yeah, and
Yes.
he also has a time limit to the amount, the timeline of the meeting. I think it's not more than 15-20 minutes, but I have to check the exact time.
Hmm. Are there any books that you would like to recommend for students aspiring to be entrepreneurs?
Oh, for students, there are. So I'll tell you, instead of just specifically student, one of the recent books that I really liked was Give and Take. It is by an organizational psychologist called Adam Grant. He's been doing a lot of work in terms of how an organization works and how to manage the most valuable asset, the people. So that book kind of, tells you the accept your hard work in everything. What is one thing that also drives your success is the way you communicate and the way you approach a lot of situation. So the idea is he kind of puts some sort of data to karma that when you give, you actually become more successful, and how that journey is. So this is one of the books that was really intriguing to me recently. But other than that, there is another book, I think Zero to One, which tells you that, okay, that is the hardest step from going from zero to one. So that is another interesting book. And also, I think reading a few biographies kind of helps you navigate or learn certain skills which are not just typical business books, but something like Da Vinci, or there are a lot of these books which are really interesting to kind of develop that mindset of discovery. So reading a multitude of books would be, so right now, Give and Take and Zero to One is coming to my mind, but there are a few others which I could probably give you in text later that you could, tell your readers about.
Sure. Yeah, that would help.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about your future plans.
So we do, co-working as an industry. If I'm speaking about my current business, as an industry, we've reached a certain level, and with the pandemic, a lot of things have changed in a lot of industries in the way that people also perceive life. So now, one of the shifts that we are noticing is that even though offices have reopened, and now that people have had a taste of remote working, they wanted to stay because it gives them a multiple of benefits. We won't get into that. Better work-life balance, and no, they don't no more want to spend their valuable time just traveling to the head office. So there's been like a perspective shift in enjoying life more, and keeping it more local. So in that sense, we're seeing that switch, and we're seeing that co-working might have a boom again, because flexibility is something that people value a lot moving forward. And also the working environment and community that you're placed in, where you can interact, have some sort of social, supportive, productive setting, which co-working spaces provide. So, in terms of my current business, we're seeing a lot of interesting things coming up, and we as a company are also working on products or offerings around the specific remote working and the hybrid working idea, I would say, rather, where there is a mix of going to office and working remotely. So there's a lot to see in this particular industry, and as of me personally, my future plans, I definitely want to grow and tap into the whole the digital. There's so much happening in terms of tech, so I want to get into something to do with tech, tap newer technologies, bring that ecosystem to India. So those are my future plans, and I definitely want to continue my entrepreneurial journey. And in light of our topic of discussion today, education, I've only done my undergrad so far, and I'm yet to do my post grad, but I'm not sure if I'll ever get into it, having done the whole entrepreneurship thing for a while now.
Wonderful. Wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. It was a lovely conversation.
Yeah, one last question. Before we leave, do you have any parting thoughts for parents, teachers, or students?
I think one of the topics of your podcast itself, the agility is one of the most key things to develop, or have people who are happier or doing the thing out of passion and creating that environment for the child, or whoever you are involved with, is very important. Letting that person have their own thoughts and not just pushing them towards rote learning, or just kind of imposing your thought process in that person. Like, you can obviously share your experience, but letting them explore on their own is very important, and it could come in different ways, or at different levels. So it obviously depends on where you are at and how you would apply this, but just giving that person that space to explore is very important, according to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also I think letting them take responsibility, not treating it as okay, they're a kid, or just not imposing, like I said, like treating them as somebody who's responsible and a peer in a lot of sense. Like, instead of just treating them as a child after a certain point, when you let them explore, also let them take responsibility. Let them know that, okay, they have a weightage in the decision. It's not
Exactly.
something.
Yes, yes. Everyone has a voice and it deserves to be heard. Yes.
Yeah. So I think these two things would be like very important in just having your own journey. Is it will support a person in many levels, not just in becoming an entrepreneur, but like we mentioned earlier, in just navigating life.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Princey,
Okay,
for
thank
sharing such
you.
amazing insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and leave me a review. I'll see you in the next episode.